Dean, it's put up or shut up time for AI, right?
Wow, yes, it is. Put up or shut up.
Put up or shut up. I'm making a bold statement there. Now, I don't expect anyone to shut up about it anytime soon.
No. Nobody's going to be shutting up about AI.
I think since the words ChatGPT were initially uttered, we have nonstop talk about AI.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think it's clear that tangible, relatable, reliable, real use cases are what's going to separate the winners of the AI revolution from the dreamers.
I would agree with that. Yes.
We've been prophets about this. Not prophets. We've been talking a lot about it this year, that we want to start seeing the legitimate stuff.
Yes.
We want the real
We need to
cases.
start seeing, that's right.
Not
that's
the pie in the sky stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
But what does that mean for our channel? That's obviously an important question. What does it mean to us, to you, to really win with AI? Well, to help us answer that, we've got Elo's Luke Wilwerding joining us on the show again today.
Yeah,
Someone who
he's a
knows a
smart
thing
guy.
or two about this. This was actually his idea. We were chatting, a few months back at one of our exec summits where we were enjoying some beverages on a boat. And he's like, "Hey, man, I want to come back on the pod. I got all these ideas. Let's talk about AI." We did a bunch of riffing there, and he came up with some good ideas.
He does have good ideas.
He does.
He's got a boots on the ground, like he's close to what's going on.
Exactly.
Right?
It's not that he doesn't just have the ideas. He has the tangible use cases because he's been out there and seen what's worked and what's not. So he's going to share some of those real examples of what he's seen, what he's hearing from folks like you and from end users about AI, help you understand what the AI foundation is, what you'll need to build and do to get ready to deliver the goods. And spoiler alert, partners like us and Elo and a lot of other great people that we work with out there in the channel, they're going to be the ones who can help you get there.
Right.
Just so you know.
Yep, absolutely.
So lots of good stuff. We got our VAR value. We're going to talk about what's on our radar. There's another spoiler alert. We're going to talk about cheating a little bit.
Oh, cheating. Yes, at the very end.
You have to stay to the end to find out what that's about. You're not going to want to miss it because you might just find a new application that you want to download. So I'm John Martin.
I'm Dean Reverman.
Welcome to BlueStar Nation. BlueStar Nation podcast is brought to you by the Elo.AI M100, which provides the ultimate rugged enterprise-grade mobile point-of-sale tablet in a slim, ergonomic design.
Wow.
Featuring a 10.1-inch FHD scratch-resistant touch display. That's, scratch-resistant.
Yep, you kind of need that on payments.
In the day of the consumer device where we're always scratching our phones up.
No doubt, but have you ever seen people like pay? Like they're scraping their rings across the screen and like clunking it with a card and bashing it with their water bottles. I mean,
like I've bumped my watch against a payment device before, I've done that kind of stuff.
They get abused, man. Right.
They do get abused. It also includes integrated payment with PCI PTS 6.0 pin on glass, flexible Android 12 OS, and a Qualcomm SD660 processor. The M100 Pay merges powerful performance with the security, unified architecture, and extended life cycle that businesses require. So the M100 accepts payments from anywhere. It includes integrated cameras, boasts sufficient battery life to last a shift. That's super important. You don't want if your payment device suddenly stops working in the middle of the day, you might be out some sales that day. You know what that happened?
A little bit of an issue.
And it can transition from fixed to mobile or vice versa with a rotating POS dock that swivels from merchant to customer facing. To learn more and view additional specifications, check the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar Elo team. All right, our returning guest for, I don't know, how many times, Luke, has it been 3-4 times you've been on the pod now?
We're going to go with more than one.
We're going to go with more than one. And he gets a plaid jacket, green jacket. What is it? Something like that.
Some kind of jacket. I mean,
a blue jacket.
It probably should be a blue jacket because we're BlueStar.
Right, yeah.
We've got Luke Wilwerding. He's the VP of North American Sales for Elo. Luke, welcome back to the pod. Happy to have you. Plus, I'm going to point out, you are the one who came to me a couple months back and said, hey, I want to get back on the pod. I've got a topic I want to talk about. So tell us what's been happening in your world. What do you got going on right now other than just a busy man running around trying to sell some Elo?
Well, John, Dean, I'll just tell you, you guys do a fantastic job with these podcasts, so it's an honor to be back. In general, I would tell you that Elo is seeing all sorts of new and exciting innovations across the industry and eager to talk about one today, being AI, and how that is impacting many of our customers in terms of their innovation, their journey. So again, excited to get into this today.
Yeah,
nice.
Definitely. Well, I know when we talk about this and you emailed me after and say, hey, here's a whole bunch of stuff that I would be fine with coming on and talking about. And if we talk about all of it, we'd probably be here for 3 hours, which I think we'd all be fine with.
Yeah.
But it probably doesn't make for good pod for the listeners.
Well,
maybe
yeah.
they want maybe something.
We'd have to slice that into
a little more chunkable. Yeah. So we decided to start with this idea of like building an AI foundation and figuring out how to get to what you need to make AI happen as part of your business, to sell AI solutions. And that fits nicely with a theme that Dean and I have kind of found ourselves in with the pod this year, which is exploring and spotlighting practical applications. We've gone from the, hey, this would be cool, let's throw it on a whiteboard and talk about how neat it would be to do this with AI, to this is cool, we're ready to use it, it's legitimate, it's a real thing. So let's start there. What are some concrete, real examples that you've seen that hopefully can prove that it's time for VARs, for our partners, for ISVs to start getting serious about going out there and building their own AI offerings?
Well, I'd probably start by just saying we're all using Copilot or ChatGPT. We're all using some type of AI engine to help us throughout our daily lives. And when we start to look at those use cases and the software behind it, those language models, those answer engines, those types of things are making their way into retail and hospitality. And the big piece that I think our community needs to start asking is how our customers are leveraging AI, how they're leveraging this new incredible capability. How it will end up being something that we will all sell is that it's translating to more and more mobile devices. It's turning into mobile POS. It's turning into ways that our employees and our customers can interact with the intelligence of artificial intelligence, throughout the entire customer journey. And as you look at people needing answers immediately, the lack of patience, let's say, and the willingness to understand exactly what they're buying, what it does, etc., these things become super easy now. And so I'd start by just saying we're going to see a lot more mobile, both at the point of sale, at the employee, in the hands of the employee, and that'll extend into payments and reducing friction, etc. But a lot of the AI that we're seeing is behind the scenes to a point. But you've got to ask your customers to say, what are you doing with AI and how will that relate to in-store, the physical environment? And do you see that masticizing as a handheld, as a mobile product that you will then relate to your customers? So I'll start there. That's the low-hanging fruit. And then you get into I'll call it the V and V, and that's vision and voice. And when I start to look at AI and how vision will play a major part in shrinkage, traffic flow, as well as just the checkout process in general, we've already seen this, but it's been very, I would say, niche. And when you start looking at the larger, again, community starting to offer these types of capabilities, this is where companies like RetailNow and others that are saying, hey, we'll bolt into any point of sale platform that you have, and we'll create, let's say, 10 different ways that you can use vision to help streamline your operations. Because when you look at, and again, I'll use this as a reference point, but Ultron really takes the vision side of AI and turns it into a UPC symbol that everybody understands. So how does AI become just a glorified scanner of sorts? It's already happening today, and our partners can leverage this technology now. And then you start to look at the ways that restaurants, as an example. I had a great conversation with a CEO, and I was explaining how we have a really unique partner that can weigh the cheese, and through this weight, and that's the gold standard, the most expensive part of a pizza, as an example. And he says, hey, I don't necessarily need to weigh this. I just need to make sure that the pizza as it goes through the oven is accurate. Because if I have to go back and re-deliver that, this is going to create a loss for me. And I said, wow, that makes perfect sense. But so you broaden that to say, okay, on the front end of food prep, how does vision help make sure that it's accurate? On the back end of food prep, how do you make sure that QSR, fast casual, and other are packaging the orders correct? And so as you start to look at new opportunity, this is that vision option and integrating that with the QSR automations, the others in the world that are your big kitchen players. But I do see that there'll be a vision component to help with operational accuracy. We already see the vision component in running the operations of a kitchen, which again is turning into more interactive type display type sales for our customers. And we're seeing, again, major QSRs are adopting this now. But as you start to see these become less of a burden, less of a complex type thing, this will proliferate everywhere just because it makes perfect sense.
It absolutely does. Oh, go ahead, Luke. Yep.
I could keep going because there's so many different use cases in terms of the experiential, the voice ordering side of self-order, this idea that I'll interact with an agent or an AI. These are a reality. And we have partners like SoundHound and others that are doing this type of initiative today, both through drive-through as well as the in-house self-order. And in addition to that, SOP plans. So if I've got a fuel spill at a C-store, I need to quickly say, what do I do if there's a fuel spill? And ask the AI the question, rather than reading through 45 pages of documents to figure out the section that says what to do when there's a fuel spill. And this, again, is another way that the language models, the AI, will be very helpful. But you'll also find that there'll be more technology in the back room. There'll be more technology, again, in the hands of those employees to help drive these efficiencies and benefit. Imagine you had a task manager as a part of your overall operations, and it said, hey, I know that you're low on these 4 things. Go stock that immediately. And the AI discerns exactly what needs to be done and the best time to do it. So again, I think these are reality now, and you are probably already seeing more device sales because of it. But the question we have to ask is, how are you leveraging AI? What are your needs? And then we in partnership can help plug in the different solutions providers that can make that work.
Holy moly, so much to unplug there, untwine. Yes, I'm going to throw some statistics out just to give you further, bolster the argument that you really need to start getting into AI if you're not into AI. As a reseller today, 78% of organizations are now using AI in some capacity, which is up from 55% just 1 year ago. Wow. So in 1 year, another 20 some odd % of organizations in business.
Sure that number will get higher again in another year from now, too. Yeah.
Of course. 83% of businesses say AI is a top strategic priority. So, everybody's looking at it, right? And Luke just did a great way of painting a picture of how resellers can start taking some of the advantages of this. But to use some statistics around how businesses are using AI, 56% of businesses are using it for operations optimization. And, he got into that with the voice. He got into that with the vision. These are clearly areas where there's a lot of interest as it relates to retail and hospitality. Cybersecurity and fraud detection, 51% of businesses are using AI in that because it's being proven to be very, very useful in those types of things. And obviously that's a huge impact to the retail industry. You get into such things as inventory management. Believe it or not, 40% of businesses are using AI in some way in inventory management. So that's more the back of house. So there's a lot of opportunities out there that folks can do. But I will throw on the table something that we've learned over the last couple of executive summits. And Luke, I know this piqued your interest too. We had a partner, Scale Computing, start talking about application platforms and really the reseller kind of positioning themselves as getting even more sticky to their customers by providing them with more of a platform integration. Right. I mean, Luke just painted the picture of 4 or 5 different applications that would be relevant to a retail or hospitality establishment. Perfect. But you need a platform. So if you start partnering with somebody like a Scale Computing on that side, now you can readily deployable, scalable. It has a lot of advantages. You can deploy these AIs, and that's kind of the way the world is going here, right? You have these applications for machine vision, for quality control. You're doing front of house, back of house. So you can help orchestrate that through platform orchestration. So that's really fascinating to me. And I think there's some opportunities, real world examples of how resellers can start getting into the game, deploying them, and helping their customers manage those different applications that are going to be running all these AI, call it agentic AI, call it whatever you want, but it's coming, right? The tsunami of these solutions are coming.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and Luke, I appreciate that, obviously you understood the assignment here. You gave us some very practical, concrete examples.
You're right.
That I think anybody can hear and be like, okay, those all make sense. But I think what really stood out to me is every example you gave was not the doom and gloom, some Silicon Valley tech exec recently said something like, "Oh, all computer jobs will be replaced by AI in the next 10 years. No one's going to be allowed to work at a desk at a computer anymore." I'm like, all right, great. And like, I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to do unless you're going to pay me to do something else. That's fine. That's not working at a warehouse, because no thanks. But all that stuff he said was not about worker replacement. It was not about like, we're going to eliminate people and use AI to fill everything in. It was all about, hey, how can we help improve your business? How can we make you more efficient? How can we make sure that you're able to sell more and do more and bring more customers in and have the products on hand that they want? Take care of them a little bit faster, get them where they need to go, so that then the humans can come in and add that extra layer of personalized touch, all that kind of stuff. Every example you gave, to me, sounded more like an augmentation story, not a replacement story. And I think that is the practical type of AI that everyone wants right now. I think when people are thinking about what does AI mean, what can it do, they don't want to hear the stories about how you're going to get replaced or how your job's going to come to an end, or you're going to have to go put the little screws in the iPhone someday. Like that's right. That's not what people want to hear. They want to hear, how's this going to make me better at what I'm doing right now? Maybe keep me from having to work, 20 hours of overtime every week because I can get my job done in a more efficient fashion. I think that's what you're leading into there. That sounds like from what you're telling us, right, Luke?
Well, and it is. But a great question was asked of me a week ago, and someone said, "Well, won't AI replace the touchscreen?" Well, that's an interesting concept. Elo knows a little bit about touch. And says there's going to be this voice and vision, and it'll be just agentic, and it'll just do things. And I said, okay, let me paint you an example. I walk into a furniture store, and Elo works with quite a few of them. And I want to buy a couch. And so I tell the AI, I want this. I might show it a picture of a color. It's got this great feature capability. And the AI figures out exactly what's in inventory, what can be ordered, what can be customized. Oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing in the world. But it gives me 50 options. Am I going to go through and see 50 on one screen? Right. And if I do I go, I would take the third column down, 7 over from the left? No, I'm going to go and I'm just going to touch the option that I want, or I'm going to scroll through the information that was provided. Touchscreens aren't going away because of AI. And John, I'll go back to what you just said there. It's going to be a complement. It's going to expand on what we're already doing today. It's going to make it more efficient. It's going to make it more useful. It's going to make the entire shopping experience a joy, because I don't have to spend a whole bunch of time looking for stuff and not finding what I want. But when it comes to the resellers, et cetera, whether it's a digital experience in store, it's an application for inventory, whether it's a voice ordering through XYZ, you will still have an interactive point. There will still be hardware. And I think we'll get more into this here in a bit in terms of what do you need to make AI work in these various environments.
Yeah.
I also got to point out that Ultron AI, good for them for picking a classic Marvel villain. I'm sure that wasn't the intent, I'm like, man, that's an awesome association to have, especially, we've seen the recent, Ultron movie or whatever, right. Well, way to lean into something that has potentially, that'd be like, at this point, that'd be like an AI company calling themselves Skynet.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you gotta overcome some hurdles there to do that. I just think that's pretty interesting. All right.
And John, on the Ultron piece, because other issues are how expensive is this going to be, et cetera.
Yeah, sure.
We showed Ultron AI at NRA using a simple $40 camera and some 3D printed material to hold the camera above the platter. And it worked flawlessly.
Yep.
So there's a lot more to be said about that, which I think we'll get into in a little bit. But just to say, there's some unique things that are occurring in the world that make this really affordable, reasonable, and something to explore immediately.
Love it. So let's talk about what you're hearing from end users. I know you get to get out there a lot, meet a lot of people. You're talking about this stuff with them. You're hearing their feedback. What are the end users saying about AI? I know, Dean, you said that a lot of corporations are planning to implement it, but that doesn't necessarily mean the people that are working there are going to be maybe 100% on board or know what to expect about it. So are you getting skepticism? Are people excited about it? Are they asking you to prove what it can do? Are they questioning the whole, is this going to replace me thing? What are they thinking? What are they hoping that AI is going to be able to do? And are those expectations realistic? Maybe give it to us from an actual worker perspective, and also then maybe what you're hearing from the corporate folks that think that this is going to be a game changer for them too.
And I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this, because I think if we just go out into the public and we talk to people, everyone's really excited about AI, the efficiencies that it's bringing in their life, these unique niche applications that are simplifying some tasks that they had to do. And then you get to the corporate world, and the corporate world saying, wow, I told an AI to create a PowerPoint for me and it did it. I told it to gather statistics. And yeah, it's not always 100%. You still have to have some human involvement interaction, but it's making our lives more efficient. And so based on those two examples, I apply that now to the store level folks that I work with. And they're also seeing some of the same benefits, let's say, of making their jobs easier. Now, the hard part, and again, the hard part really is, how do I implement some of the hardware, some of the different pieces and components to make this all work and build up? And you mentioned scale computing. Am I using containers? Am I using a VDI? How am I doing this? And so I think that's the piece where we're seeing, I don't want to call it a stall, but there's the piece where it says, hey, when I go with this, I need to go big, because I can't just do it. Well, I'll pilot here, but I need to make sure it's scalable. And so how do I scale this? How do I manage it? How do I make this work across my 100, 300,000 stores to where it becomes useful and there's not a massive amount of overhead? And I think many of our retail and hospitality customers are in that spot right now. I know I need this. I know it works. How do I implement? How do I prepare for this? What is my journey going to look like? And is it 6 months? Is it 1 year? But you're going to find, again, winners and losers at this. There are going to be early adopters who are going to take on this journey quickly, and they're going to see massive benefits in their environments. And whether you can see that as a customer shopping, or if it's just really employee satisfaction, because their job, their scheduling, their tasks are all now much easier to manage and deal with. Expectations are set and they're clear. Like you'd mentioned, John, just from the operations side, it's just there's a lot of different benefit that you might not visually see. The visual benefit will come about as digital experience, the self-checkouts, the types of agent type interactions, the wayfinding. I was using a great example of someone who asked again about a touchscreen. If you go to the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, you'll see hundreds of 42-inch Elo touchscreens that are being used for wayfinding, a little advertising, a little customer assist. But imagine if you could walk up and say, where's the closest Starbucks? And it basically found that for you. Now, there might be advertising around that. It might ask you if you want to add some additional shopping or food or other things that could help with, and I'll interact with that screen. But there's just, again, so much that you can already do with your existing technology that becomes an add-on. You just might need a couple pieces that I'm eager to share here in a bit.
You know, when I think about that question, John, about, you know, what are end users saying and things like that, the voice that I hear coming through with the resellers is there's interest, as we've explored here today, but there's uncertainty from the reseller level on what to do next, you know, and where to start placing their bets as it relates to, you know, how do they address it. And one of the things that clearly comes to my mind, and when I ask resellers, like, do you have services that can integrate AI through APIs and things like that? And it's, I think that's where there's a little bit of a hiccup. Like, you know, not only is it on the programming side and creating the agentic AIs or whatever it may be, but it's also the integration. So, you know, they're obviously, depending on who the reseller is, there may be some comfort levels of doing integrations of point of sale systems or stuff like that into larger systems, certainly back of house WMSs that tap into ERPs and stuff like that. But you know, it's the integration part and trying to figure out where that goes, I think is still part of the issue. And so what does that mean? Well, proof of concepts are still, you know, readily available and needed in this space and being used a lot. But, you know, that's a difficult thing when you're a reseller, because that slows the process down a lot of times, or it can create more questions around it. And so you have the initial excitement about deploying something, and then it kind of, you know, peters away and stuff like that. So finally, I'll bring in the ecosystem. And I love the fact that Luke is bringing in to the table here multiple different partners, because that is how this reality is going to become a reality, is through a partnership of ecosystems that we've talked about. Or an ecosystem of partnerships. I'm sorry. You know, that's how it goes.
I think we very much are in prove it mode. You know, and
well, for sure.
But to your point, it's not just end users saying prove that this can benefit me or that there's a use for it. It is the resellers too.
That's right.
I mean, in some way, it's us also. I mean, we're all trying to. I'm sure Elo, you feel the same way. Like, there's a million to one pop-up, startup AI companies out there that all claim they can be the next great thing and do the next most amazing thing ever. But we all are kind of looking at them and saying, all right, well, you got to show me something. Like I can't partner up with you. I can't go out there and try to sell something if I don't see the tangible benefits, if I can't show people what the benefits are going to be. But at the same time, we also know that, like, I think we're reaching this point where if I was a reseller, I'd want to start becoming very knowledgeable about this stuff.
For sure.
To be able to go out and talk the talk about it. To be able to
but
answer the prove-it question to others.
Yeah, also have the skill sets in-house and or through your ecosystem to deploy these types of things.
Yeah, and this is, to me, this is another clear example of where the partnership mentality has to set in.
Right.
Because this most likely is not going to be something that any one reseller is going to be able to handle completely on their own.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of different options. There's going to be a lot of different tools. To your point, there's all different types of integration questions and conversations going on, all kinds of angles from the hardware and the software perspective. How does it integrate with what you're currently doing? And most likely, it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to figure out and do all of it in-house. Maybe you can find out one or two that is your specialty, but more than likely, you're going to have to start developing and building out some partnerships, which, again, if you weren't doing that already, I don't know how you're still in business. But
well, you agree with that sentiment there, Luke? Because I know you guys have a fantastic ISV, arm and going out and partnering with those folks. So it's a good thing to do, right?
Yes, I completely agree with you. And I like what you said about the ecosystem. It is all about the ecosystem because there's areas of AI that's highly specialized, and this will be an integration type aspect to make it successful. But again, we are seeing the test and tunes happening now, and we are seeing full deployments now.
Yep.
And so I feel like you've got to get in the game immediately because it's happening, and it's happening all around us. It's just, again, you've got to start somewhere. So I would just say that what you said there is spot on.
Well, you've been hinting and teasing at it along the way. And obviously the reason why we were having this conversation is you threw out the idea of, I want to talk about what it means to build an AI foundation. So let's get into that. What does an AI foundation mean to you? What do we need to be thinking about and doing from the processing power perspective, the compute power, the hardware, the software, the integrations we just talk about? How do we create a foundation that VARs and all of us throughout the channel can actually build upon in order to go out and start delivering these solutions?
Well, an AI foundation can be referenced in a lot of different ways. Are we talking about computer vision? Is it the different models that are leveraged? Is it GPU, NPU? So I'm going to take the Elo spin on this idea of AI foundation. And we're a hardware manufacturer, of course. So we enable software and payments as a part of our strategy. And with that, we're helping resellers and our customers prepare for the AI future. And I'll get into depth on this, but when we start to talk about voice, I need to make sure that I have a speaker and a microphone that works. And if I have a conversation with you, I don't want to have a conversation with 50 people around me. I want to converse with just you and I in many cases. So how does the microphone pick that up? How does it create a beam-forming type audio experience? And so you start to look at this. The peripherals really didn't exist. And so Elo, in partnership with a company called AI Connect, has now come to market with an Edge Connect peripheral that AI Connect will offer to enable a lot of these various voice interactions, which we showcased at NRA here recently, which is the National Restaurant Association show. Furthermore, when you start looking at the compute to drive that, and it depends on where the language model is going to exist, where do you require the processing, but in many cases, you want that localized for the immediate response, which gets into NPUs, neural processing units, and GPUs, graphic processing units. And so from a hardware perspective, we offer what's called the Elo.AI type capability. And Halo offers a Halo 10. We like the focus of the Elo.AI type processor, which is an NPU that we now sell standard in our Intel product portfolio as a great example of that. We're also advancing what we're doing from a camera perspective, which again enables some of the vision side of this to make sure that if you wanted to add shrinkage or some type of AI checkout, can you buy a Wallaby with camera capabilities to enable that from a simplified perspective? My belief is that you can't have a science project every time a reseller tries to create an experience with voice or create a vision-related experience. We have to have some level of standardization for this to scale appropriately. And then furthermore, when you start getting into the processing side of that, Elo's building out a roadmap that says from the edge compute perspective, we will have the NPU, GPU processing in small form factor computers that can sit back of house, driving both AI, voice, as well as vision type applications at the store level. And this, again, is something that's somewhat unique for Elo. Many view us as a touchscreen company. Well, I again go back to this idea that we're a software and payments enablement company, and those edge compute processing power will drive a lot of the mobile and fixed type experiential AI applications now and in the future. So again, I start to look at this, and your customers, the resellers, need to be very prepared to have these conversations to say, you might not be ready for AI today, but when you buy an Elo product, you might be looking at 8 to 10 years. You need to make sure you have a TOPS, a tera operations per second type platform that will get you the speeds that you need to be able to do a vision or voice application. You need to make sure that you have the peripheral connection capabilities through Elo Edge Connect to add voice, to add camera, to add these different options. But I would say that the immediate action is preparation. You have to be prepared for the AI future. And to do that, you need NPU, GPU, peripherals to enable these applications now and in the future.
Lots to unpack there as well. So let's start in with the modular. You know, when you think about it from a reseller perspective, you can no longer not be. Maybe computer nerd is too strong of a statement, but you have to know the guts of what's going on here, right?
You do.
I mean, maybe, you know, if you're just selling POS, you just needed compute in order to run your little application. Right. But in today's world, and this is why we're seeing a blending of operational technology that we live in on the edge and IT folks who are very comfortable with the speak of GPUs and RAM and blah, 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 and all those kinds of things. But that's becoming highly relevant because what's being asked to be computed on the edge in the store in this environment, or even in the warehouse or in the healthcare environment, is compute. And so, it demands lower latency. You can't have these things. Go back and listen to the Scale, podcast that we had. Yeah. It was a great analogy about you wouldn't want your driverless car being driven by the cloud. I mean, there's just reasons why you don't want that kind of a latency effect happening. What was it
Jeff said? Like,
you're
something
breaking.
Like, he said something like microseconds count when nanoseconds are what you need, or something like that. I know he said something much smarter than that, but it's essentially that idea. Yeah.
But to Luke's point, I mean, you need these things. If you're getting into customer experience, you don't want to sit there and interact with a touch screen about, what this clothes might look like on you, or whatever the application might be, and you're sitting there waiting for the spinning thing that's not going to happen. No. So you have to understand the compute, you have to understand the environments, and I think that's a huge thing for resellers to really kind of man up and understand that is there. The modularity, the flexibility that systems need today is abundantly clear. I mean, we talk about it, and obviously Elo's leaning into that with the ability to bolt on to core products that you can do that, and you can facilitate these things and future-proof your customers to enable them with these types of things. So maybe they're not using voice enablement right now at their kiosk, but I guarantee you maybe a couple of years down the road, they're going to be looking at something like that because they're going to have to now respond. Who's going to, that this is the way that nature that goes. So, and then when you get into the whole vision and experientials thing is, again, these things take compute. So anyway, when you look at an AI foundation, you have to understand the processing power and what that really means. What the customer, you have to have a more in-depth conversation with the customer about what they're trying to lump on and what they're seeing and what they're going to try to do through AI, so that you can help build that platform and build that experience out for their customers.
Yeah, but, I think you make a great point about the idea that tech is no longer in silos anymore.
It's not.
It's all meant to be interconnected. It's all meant to be talking to each other and working together.
That's right.
And I think especially I especially like the idea of, all right, you need to think about technology that has the option to add the things that you're going to want later. Like you were just talking about, like voice, for instance. I think that's something like the cloud software side of things figured out a long time ago was very good about, especially I think about like cloud POS, for example.
Yeah, right.
You'd have a lot of POS companies that say like, hey, we've got all these features that our POS can do. We get, you may not need all of them right now. That's fine. It's still going to be there. And the day that you're ready, when you want to add on online ordering, for instance, it's simply a switch that can be flipped on. Maybe there's an extra little cost associated with it. But either way, it's going to be a lot simpler than, oh, we got to start all over and wipe everything, start over, build a whole new ecosystem for you,
or
and relaunch
we don't have the
this.
compute power to run this now. We got to add yet another desktop, laptop, whatever to run this in the store. Nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Luke, one follow-up question here then. So you're talking about all this stuff that you think everyone needs to know about. Is there anything that typically or maybe resellers don't usually expect or realize that they do need to understand and know about and make part of that foundation? Does anything ever surprise them where they're like, oh crap, I didn't realize that's a part of my business I need to start figuring out and learning how to do that maybe wasn't something they were typically comfortable with in the past?
Well, I do think that in any sale, you have to be prepared for both a vision and voice type application. And so whether that compute is at the local or you're running it at the edge, you mentioned the cloud latency. That I think that's going to be an issue for many just based on the speeds and feeds. But I think a lot of it's the preparation in the horsepower of the computers that you're selling. And will they future-proof for the next 5 to 10 years based on what you're selling today? And I think that's a question that does need to be asked.
Definitely.
But, I still think there's a couple basic things that resellers can do today to kind of get into the foundation of an AI or to have these types of things. Consider your team, consider your training up or upskilling some of your team, whether it's through prompt engineering, because obviously you can do a lot with the LLMs that are out there today and those types of things. But, that's something to consider. Also consider presenting it as a bundled type of solution. I know that we've been working internally at BlueStar around trying to develop those types of things like AI plus WMS, and we're bringing to market these types of vetted solutions. We're working with great partners like Elo to facilitate that because again, we all understand that it's an ecosystem, and so just enabling that, that's understanding that is a part of your foundational AI as well. A couple key points there.
Yeah.
And Dean, I think I love what you just said there, because this is a challenge for myself, and there's going to be a lot of business leaders throughout the world that are saying, hey, I've got to educate my teams. I've got to get them up to speed on what is this? How does this work?
Yeah.
What does it work with? And how do I best coach and help lead in this new world? And so from an Elo perspective, this is a challenge. And I think it's going to be a challenge for many organizations to say, what does the new AI world look like? How do you really coach a customer to be AI prepared? And then what directions should they start to say, hey, this is a crawl, this is a walk, and this is a run. And what does that look like? And so I think as we think of all of the great people that are out there selling and guiding and leading with their customers, there's a re-education that needs to occur in terms of what AI is going to mean, what it will do, and then how to lead our customers to the best solutions going forward.
Really well said.
Yep.
I mean, the breakneck speed of what AI is developing at, well, communications has got to be there as well to get out in front of it and to be a part of the enablement.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in a moment here, Luke's going to help us wrap up by explaining a little bit more about how Elo is providing some neat products that will help you go out there and enable these AI solutions as well.
Hey.
But before we do that, quick notes, a couple of things. First of all, what's happening around BlueStar Nation? Well, you might have heard, I hope you've heard, if you're in the retail space,
yes,
RetailNow 2025 is coming quite soon.
That's true.
I think as of this episode's release, it'll be about a month out or so that it'll be happening, late July.
Yes.
Of course, BlueStar is going to be there. Again, the show's happening July.
You have to stop by the BlueStar booth, by the way, because Elo has like the whole front quadrant of our booth.
So a lot of amazing partners are sponsoring our booth this year.
That's
we
right.
very much appreciate them. Elo is definitely high on that list.
Yep.
And a lot of our partners are going to be at the show also, with their own booths and stuff going on too.
Yep.
So it's July 27th to the 29th, Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. It's nothing bad ever happens when you go to Vegas. except a great retail show, apparently.
Yeah.
In addition to finding us on the trade show floor, again, pretty awesome booth. I've seen some of the concept that Cordy and you guys have been working on. It's going to be a cool, slick-looking booth.
Yep.
We're also going to have some interesting guest speakers at some of the breakout sessions. Dwayne Roebuck's going to be talking RFID in action for retail. I believe this guy...
Who?
You,
oh, me, yeah,
you got a session, right? You're talking like opportunities in omni-channel. You're going to find a lot of amazing folks that we've had here on the podcast. I know Frederick Carligren's going to be there, Jill Miller, Tyler Young.
Yeah,
lots
of
good folks.
They do a great job of getting great speakers.
They really do.
They do.
So registration's still open for Retail Now. If so, let us know if you're going to be there. Stop by and say hi. We'd love to see you and chat with you at the BlueStar.
Show you some Elo stuff too. Yeah,
there you go. Exactly. All right. Well, hey, while you're doing that, while you're looking into Retail Now and deciding up and coming to see us, take a few minutes to do all the cool stuff we ask you to do on a podcast. Like our show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on whatever podcast platform you prefer, leave us rating and reviews. You have no idea how useful that is. It's a great way to help get the word out to other folks. Plus, sometimes we just need a little bit of affirmation,
right?
It's nice to know. I mean, the fact that we got Luke coming back and saying, "Hey, I want to be back on the podcast."
Well,
that to me is a good sign that we're doing something right. Because when we get smart people that come and say, "Hey, I'd like to come and talk to you guys more," that tells you you're doing something right. But I still want to know what you, the listener, viewer, is thinking. Also,
that's right.
Please, feel free to leave us comments. Again, send us in reviews. We'd love to hear from you. Check out our BlueStar Nation blog. We're always doing great stuff over there. A lot of great content and user surveys. Send in your ideas for the show. The show is only as good as what you actually want to hear and see on it. So let us know who you want us to talk to. What do you want us to talk about? Luke's got a whole list of ideas. If there's something you want him to get into, I'm sure we can get him back on the show. And as always, connect with us. Let us know what you need. Find us on the BlueStar LinkedIn page, or you can email us directly, nation@bluestarinc.com. All right, let's wrap things up as always, starting a little VAR value here. And Luke, I wanted to let you talk up a little bit of what Elo is doing, because you guys recently announced your iSeries 5, the Backpack 5, a couple products that you are building on for the Elo.AI initiative.
Nice.
So tell us a little more about what that initiative means. How does it fit into this larger conversation we've been talking about? And how can VARs take advantage of what you're doing to build out their AI solutions?
That's a great question, John. So I think it kind of wraps up this entire discussion today, because the iSeries 5 reality is it's an AI capable product. So it serves over 12 and a half TOPS with the new 6490 chipset. So it is already a AI capable Android ARM-based computer. Some of the specs and I don't want to get too deep into the specmanship here, but this computer can drive 5 simultaneous cameras.
See, there you go.
That's awesome.
At 4K. So when you look at our direct relationship with Qualcomm, many of these processors are in cars in some cases, and that's how we're able to meet these very long life cycles. But you can do decoding up to 4K with 5 individual cameras. So when you start looking at shrinkage, you start looking at the AI self-checkout and other types of capabilities, it is all there in a nice package in our 5th generation iSeries product. I'd also say that it's highly power efficient. So when you start looking at the cost of energy, et cetera, by switching from your legacy type platforms to the new iSeries 5, you will also gain a cost benefit just from the basic simplicity of its very, very low power. And again, it marries very well with our existing iSeries 4, 3, 2, and 1. So as you start to look at upgrading your existing iSeries Android platforms, moving to the 5, with Android 14 has some significant benefits, again, for AI preparation and readiness. From the overall technical capabilities, it's 3 times faster than the current iSeries 4. Wow. So again, if you haven't talked to your BlueStar rep, reached out to someone from Elo about the new iSeries 5, now is the time. And this is a great product to be prepared for your AI future for yourself and your customers.
Yeah, and I think the machine vision, I'm glad you mentioned the 4K. Do you know the kind of resolution you can get with 4K in an environment where you're trying to do fraud detection and stuff like that?
Yeah.
It's a lot better than the old grainy.
Better than what my Ring camera can do on the front of my house, probably.
Better than even your 720, back in the day.
Yeah.
I can remember when that came out. I was like, oh my God, it's like looking out a window. No. no.
Looking at
the resolution
a
you get in
blurry
4K.
window with a bunch of handprints on it, maybe.
Yeah, but to the point is you need the compute power in order to be able to handle that. There
Exactly.
you go. Nice stuff. Nice stuff.
We love hearing that Elo's got it.
Got
the goods.
Got the goods
to help you go out there and build your AI foundation.
Yes, sir.
You need great partners.
Yep.
We're serving one up for you here on a platter for you.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, let's wrap up as always with what's on your radar. This is where we talk about something in the world of tech, innovation, science, the news, business.
Otherwise,
just something random we feel like talking about this week.
Yes.
So, Luke, I know you always have good stuff for this. What's on your radar right now?
I'm going to keep on this AI thread. And as you start to look back and how science was generally performed, and the very intelligent, amazing people that did the calculations, they wrote the papers, they analyzed the data. AI is the next paradigm shift for accelerating science through discovery, analysis, and experimentation. And what could or would have taken years is now taking, in some cases, hours and days. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're living in this new era of scientific breakthroughs, and we'll continue to hear more and more about that because of AI. So that's definitely high on my list, and keep reading about it daily.
Yeah. It reminds me of the phrase that is somewhat popular now, politics aside, of flooding the zone. Like, and I feel like we're there with AI. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, Luke. It's like, all this stuff's happening. Advancements are rapidly happening in medicine and in space and business and what. It's like, how do we keep track of all this wonderful stuff that's happening? Yeah, it's hard.
Well, I mean, but you know me, I'm passionate about the healthcare stuff, and I love the idea that maybe we can get faster about finding cures for diseases or new treatments and things that can help people extend their life and give them better end of life quality. Yep. And if AI is going to be an enabler for that, that is one of the situations where I will immediately sign up and say, "Yep, let's do the AI thing
let's
here."
Do that. Yeah.
Because if it's going to help, speed up this time to getting new treatments ready. There's nothing worse than like when you hear about like, hey, we finally conquered X disease, or we finally figured out how to minimize the damage and the risks of this certain type of, condition or whatever. And you think about all the thousands, millions of people that have suffered over the years and died from these things that if we could have gotten there just a few years faster, could have been potentially been avoided. So I'm all on board with that
crazy
AI usage.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Dean? What's on your radar?
Well, we all saw the footage of the drones destroying about 40% of Russia's tactical nuclear bombers, right?
Yeah.
Well, in a somewhat related story, Walmart drones are now getting closer to your delivering your packages. So here's the headline. Wing and Walmart are bringing drone delivery to 100 new stores. So, I had heard about the fact, and this is the whole last mile delivery and stuff like that. I had heard about the fact that Walmart was test marketing some of these things. But apparently they're being quite successful. So they're rolling out 100 new stores, but you have to live in Atlanta, Charlotte, Houston, Orlando, or Tampa. So no, not coming to the Cincinnati area.
Still a long way from our local neighborhood.
Still a little bit away from our area. But, to quote an SVP over at Walmart, drone delivery will remain a key part of their commitment to redefining retail. And I do think it's interesting how this is really kind of going to transform a certain part of the last mile delivery, but they have completed over 150,000 deliveries. The Walmart and Wing relationship has. So it's coming. It's out there. It's going to be in 100 more locations. How long do you think it'll take to get to here? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm giving another 4 or 5 years, probably.
4 or 5 years, and then maybe we'll see it in Cincinnati. Yeah. Luke, you're in Arizona, or where are you?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I tell you, I'd give them a landing pad right out back if they would bring it to my area.
No doubt.
Have you seen these drones? I wanted to comment on this.
I don't know if it's the Walmart drone one, but I've seen something.
Just go to
one of the ones Amazon.
Just go to wing.com.
Okay,
and they're about the size of a small kid's bike, so they're not small, but they're not ginormous. Right. They look like a dual canopy fixed wing airplane. So that's like the two areas, and then there are propellers all over this thing. Right. So it can hover, yes, but then it's got like wings and the propellers on the wings, so it can propel itself. It goes 65 miles an hour.
Wow.
It is low noise. It can run in moderate rain. It can't do like hurricanes, but it can run in moderate rain. And when you watch it, it's a whole tether and winch system. So
that's what I
saw.
So
it's a little recently. Little winch little tether comes down, picks up the package, but that's definitely the way it's delivered. So it'll hover over your driveway, and then just this line comes down. It's like if you ever seen a rescue operation with a helicopter that just sits in the basket, goes down, picks up the human, brings it. Exact same concept.
Which I feel like solves a very important problem, because I remember when the drone thing first started being a conversation, which we've been talking about this, I feel like, for almost a decade now.
Yeah, right.
I remember thinking to myself, well, what's going to stop someone from just walking out their front door with a baseball bat and whacking this? Not great. I mean, obviously, they probably capture you on camera and know. But like, if I were a company, and these, because I'm sure these things are not cheap at all, even per device. Yeah. Per unit, like I wouldn't want anything where someone could have a chance to get a hold of or touch or damage this thing.
You could run up and grab this string or
that's
this
true.
tether,
you can yank it down potentially.
And then, but I feel
like the risk is a little.
I'm waiting for
little lighter than that.
I'm waiting for the first video of I'm sure the system is smart enough that it sees somebody quote unquote attacking, and this will pull the string up real quick. So it'll be like you miss it.
That's gonna be like a whole TikTok challenge or something.
Oh,
it's like
100%.
Can I catch the drone?
Can I catch the Walmart drone? Yes.
Yeah.
But I think they finally got this thing figured out. Now it's just a matter of getting through, because there are some complications around it. The FAA has rules around it. You have to be within 6 miles. You have to live within 6 miles of wherever the takeoff is. So there's a line of sight and stuff like that. But anyway, I think we're getting closer and closer. Yeah.
I appreciated they're also talking about the low noise thing, because that has always been something too. I'm like, well, if everyone starts doing these, is there just going to be this constant in your neighborhood?
It kind of sounds like the cicadas. So we got another brood. Do you have it down by your house?
We don't know.
Oh, my Lord.
I think it's because I'm in a fairly new neighborhood.
Luke, do you have any idea what we're talking about when we say cicadas?
I grew up in Nebraska.
Okay, so there's just this hum, this constant hum for about 3 weeks. And but to your point, if it's artificial drone
what if it's
noise?
365 days a year now? Yeah. Especially can you imagine like the holiday season? It's just like nonstop. The skies are darkened with drones or something.
It's not going to be that bad.
Probably not.
Anyway,
I mean, hey, but that's one of those things. Again, we joke about it, but imagine, this is if you're someone who's interested in sustainability and interested in getting more emissions out of our atmosphere. That's one way to clear things up. I know like Amazon, a lot of these companies are starting to drive the electric vehicles and stuff for everything, to try to mitigate that stuff. But one more way that potentially we can maybe get a few vehicles off the road, which, hey, in a residential neighborhood, one less giant truck that's stopping every 5 houses, it's never a bad thing either.
So anyway, what's on your radar?
All right, well, I'm going to go back to the AI route here again a little bit and talk about a new application called Cluely. So Cluely, which its tagline is "Cheat at everything." We're just being very upfront at this point, because let's be honest, in many ways, people think about AI as like a little bit of a cheat tool, depending on how you're using it, what you're using it for. Well, this company is being even more upfront about it, and for a good reason. So this was created by a Columbia student who essentially was, as he was doing a lot of interviews, he was in school for learning coding and software development and stuff or whatever, and he's finding himself on calls and Zoom calls doing coding stuff. And apparently there's a thing where developers, when they're testing applicants, they use a platform called LeetCode, which is used to real time watch someone as they're coding, because they give you a coding project, and rather than just hope that you're actually doing it yourself and sending it back, they are actually watching you through a browser, like you're using a browser, and they're watching you do the coding live. So he decided, well, I don't want to actually have to do that and do the work, I guess, even though to me it sounds like he's someone that could have. So he created an AI that he called Cluely, where essentially it is installed in his browser, watches and listens to everything that you're doing on your screen, and will pop up and make suggestions and give you answers and tell you how to do stuff. So essentially, he was cheating these applications and cheating these interviews by someone would say, he code this, do this code that does X, Y, Z. And he would basically have Cluely listen in and see what they were asking for and go, all right, here's the code, and give it to him so he could then just go and plug it in or type it in from there and pretend like he was doing it himself. Not visible to the person on the other end.
Right.
They're not seeing what's going on. They're not seeing that he's doing that. So now they've rolled this out, and people are apparently interested because they've already raised $5.3 million in funding for this. Now, mind you, Columbia obviously got wind of this, and as colleges and universities tend to do when they hear about their students cheating, they kicked him out.
Yep.
But I guess joke's on them in a way, because he's making plenty of money off this. Apparently now he's also even going out and saying that he's using it for like dating. So he has like a video that he put up of him on a date, in order to like have a conversation with his date, and she's talking about something that he has no knowledge about or isn't interested in. He's using Cluely to like give him cues about how to have a conversation. But apparently, like the example that he threw out there, the girl figured it out at some point during the conversation and walked away from him. So I don't know if that's a smart use too. He will not tell anyone what LLM that the platform is using.
Okay,
it's a little fishy about that particular part of the conversation.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like, this is one of those weird things where you're like, well, in a fashion, I mean, again, they're being upfront, but in a fashion, a lot of using AI is sort of considered cheating in a way.
I see.
Some people might tell you that using ChatGPT to write something
cheating.
or draw something is cheating, but we all know like there is useful applications for this stuff. Is he just a little ahead of the curve here? Is this one of those things like, because we already know like schools are struggling with the whole LLM of it all, of how to deal with that.
Yeah.
I mean, is this going to have to change the way that job applications are handled and interviews are handled?
Yes.
If your applicant can cheat, if you will, by using AI, do you need to start paying more attention to like maybe how this person might be a cultural fit and their
so
other
everything's
skills?
going back to in person.
I don't know,
virtual,
maybe,
right?
or like, or is it just like giving a homework assignment is not going to be the way to figure out whether someone's. I don't know that it ever necessarily was anyway, because you give someone an assignment, even if you weren't doing it on a platform like this where you're watching them, you don't know that they actually are the ones who did the work either. Someone could, say like, hey, I got an assignment that I got to write an essay about something or whatever, or write a business plan, and they go find their friend who's like really good at that and have them do it for them. It doesn't mean that they were qualified for that, So.
But by the time we get there, isn't Neuralink going to just make us all smart? They'll just download all this information, and we don't really need school anymore. I mean, what do we need school for?
I don't know. Who knows where this is going? There we go. That's what's on our radar.
Yeah.
Luke, what about you? Would you use Cluely? I mean, if you had the option, would you use it to like watch what's happening on your screen and help clue you in on what you need to do?
John, I'm already downloading it. So yes, the answer is absolutely. And when you start looking at ChatGPT Copilot, I think it always helps you just get started. And so if Cluely can help me get started or give me the answer, I might not take the answer. But again, I think it's going to create better efficiency. So yes, I'm going to give this one a try.
All right. So here's what I think we do. Next podcast, you come on. You don't prepare at all. You don't even look at the cue sheet. You just turn this on while we're recording and see what answers it gives you
in real time. There you go.
We'll see what we get out of it. So
good stuff.
I think the challenge is going to be, don't tell me the topic, just surprise me. There we go.
There you go. All right, Luke Wilwerding, thank you so much for joining us again.
Luke.
We love having you on the show. Until next time, folks, it is time for us to sign off. Hey, I promise you that we won't cheat at podcasting, though.
No, we won't.
Unless you count having awesome guests. Like Luke, because
it is a cheat.
Kind of a cheat code.
He's like a cheat code,
We've got right there, yeah. We'll see you folks out there in the nation.